I feel like you're always breaking news here on the pod, but we just barely signed a binding term sheet with a group that is going to be taking the same technology they're using in tennis and moving it over to pickleball. There'll be automatic line calling, so you won't even call lines anymore. It'll just
Wow,
automatically.
holy crap.
Yeah,
That's some news. No shit.
it's going to be good.
All right, real quick, if you've been on your feet a lot lately, especially at tournaments, do yourself a favor and check out these shoes from G-Defy. They've got this tech called VersaShock that absorbs impact and gives some of that energy back, so you're not feeling totally wrecked by the end of the day. They also throw in 2 orthotics for free, which is usually like $100 from a podiatrist. High arch, low arch, whatever you've got, they've got you. They just dropped a bunch of new styles for the summer. Hit the link in the description and use code DINK for 30% off orders over $100. That's all caps DINK for 30% off orders over $100.
All right, guys, we've got a great PicklePod. We have Andrea Koop coming on to talk about Beer City Open stuff and SportsCenter coming to Michigan. We have Javier from Global Pickleball Federation telling us about what the deal is with their trip to Switzerland to try and get pickleball in the Olympics and their thoughts on the WPF IFP merger. We've got Eric Tice, as always, to give us the breakdown and tell us what the deal is with the playoff standings. He has firsthand information about the Genie Bouchard and Jessie Irvin drama from this past weekend, where Jessie Irvin left the venue instead of playing MLP matches. So we've got information on that. And we've got Connor Pardoe coming on to talk about the UPA contract extensions and some stuff that's going on about that. So this is an action-filled pickle pod. Not going to want to miss it. We've got great stuff through and through. All right, Andrea. Welcome to the
never
Pickle
said
Pod.
my name before. You've never said my name before.
That's probably true. I always call you Koopy. I think I'm the only one who calls you Koopy.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually called you Andrea before. That's a good point.
Yeah.
No wonder I stumbled through it. But we'll be quick because you're over in San Clemente right now for your MLP. But I wanted to talk to you about some really cool news from Beer City. So we heard that SportsCenter is going to 50 different states in 50 days and stopping in Grand Rapids for the Beer City Open. What does that mean, and how did that happen?
Well, first off, thanks MLP. We're thrilled that that's happening. We have been, submitting things to ESPN for years because we think we're important in Grand Rapids, and they have ignored us. But I'm assuming Jay Moskowitz and his team with MLP and Samin got it done this year. I'm sure the 50 different states doesn't hurt. I can't tell you why Grand Rapids was chosen above any other MLP event. I don't know, but we're super thrilled that it was. Actually, the 50 states thing is kicking off tomorrow, June 27. Scott Van Pelt from ESPN is kicking it off day 1. And then different ESPN personalities will be hosting SportsCenter Live at each event. I know one of the events is like the WNBA All-Star Game. So we're in very good company. We're excited. I don't know who from ESPN will be in Grand Rapids, but either way, it's SportsCenter. It's pretty awesome for us at the Beer City Open and definitely for MLP and exposure for our great sport.
So does that mean that they're actually going to be setting up their stage and whatnot and hosting SportsCenter from the Beer City Open?
So I don't know specifics. We asked if they needed a stage, and my example was like game day, college game day.
That's what
and,
I thought.
I don't know. I know they need a spot. So whatever they do with their spot, they might be doing that. I truly don't know. I would love to know, but I know it's 2 p.m. on Thursday of the Beer City Open. They're coming and going to be around on Wednesday shooting, I guess, like B-roll. I think they are doing a feature with Anna Lee because, as they should, she's a rock star on Wednesday. Don't know when that's airing, but anyway, like I said, it's great exposure for Beer City Open, for MLP, for all of us players. Go pickleball.
Yeah, for sure. That was super exciting. And I do think that they chose a very good location to do it. So, Beer City has been, 2018, 2019 founded?
Yeah, we started in 2018. I think this is our 7th year because 2020 skipped with COVID. Sold out again for amateur registrations. We don't have any more rooms. So it could be part of it. I just had to ask Danielle for MLP. They're doing tickets this year. We've never done tickets for Beer City before, but we are closing off the venue, and you got to have a grounds pass to come in. And I just had to ask MLP to add more because they were sold out. So I don't know if that happens at other MLP events, or maybe it does. I don't know, but ours were sold out and now they had to add more.
Yeah, well, I know Beer City is always a fan and player favorite because, and I've been saying this for a while, it's difficult to run a tour, especially when you have to run every single tour stop and they're across the country every single weekend, right? Where
Mhm.
you guys, you and Paul Richards and all of the volunteers that you have are able to spend 12 months a year working on making your event and promoting your event and getting local engagement. And I really feel like that's why it is one of the most, if not the most successful event in pickleball and certainly a player favorite. Um, just being able to do this 12 years around the calendar year. Yeah, so it's been a favorite of mine since I started in, like, I think my first year was 2019 maybe. Um, and so it's also been super cool to see how Belknap Park has grown to fit the tournament. The first year, I'm not gonna lie, Koopy, no offense, no offense, it was a little bit rinky dinky. We had Paul Richards' favorite. You shared the location with what was it, like roller hockey or something crazy like that?
We did with bike polo, and
Mike
hey,
Polo.
I take a little bit of offense because it was 2019, and I don't think we were any more rinky-dinky than
You
anywhere
weren't.
else that everyone
You
else
weren't.
was
You
playing
weren't.
pro
You weren't.
pickleball at. In
Yep,
fact, we may have been superior to some of the places.
for sure. I'll take that. Yeah. I was wrong to say that comment, but compared to what it is today, like it's grown. It was a park,
Yeah.
respectively, and now you've created every single year. There's something different, and from what I understand, you guys are in the middle of another pretty sweet expansion as well. Can you tell us what Belknap's going to look like a couple years from now?
Well, I can't promise it. We're working with the city. We're trying to get um, a real pickleball stadium, like, maybe the Fort type thing in Florida or what Mesa has in Arizona, but a dedicated pickleball stadium up on where the baseball field is now, and then maybe like 12 additional pickleball courts. We're working with the city. Nothing's set in stone, but exposure like SportsCenter coming to Belknap Park certainly doesn't hurt us with those plans. We know that we want to have a long term partnership with the UPA and have them come back every year, whether it's through MLP or through a PPA event. And we have 21 dedicated courts, but we take out some right now to create the stadium for the event. And as the UPA continues to grow, they can't have events at a facility that doesn't have less than 30 courts. And for MLP in general, as I said, we already sold out tickets and we don't want to turn people away. We need more room so that we can get more fans in and share the sport with more and more people who want to see it. And then as far as like the local scene too, every night, if you are an amateur and you come to Belknap Park between 5 and 11 p.m., it's packed. All 21 courts are used, but people playing, some people, many of them are playing in bare feet because they don't know the rules. It's just all 21 courts are full all night long. And when the lights go off at 11 o'clock at night, that's how they know they got to leave.
Do you bark at them when they're not wearing when they're not wearing shoes? Because I do remember we played the Beer City Open together a couple of years ago. We're in the middle of a match, and you say, "Hold on, hold on," and you literally walk off the court. You go over like 3 courts down because there was some lady playing in a tank top or something, or somebody who was violating like the Belknap Park dress code. You stop our match, like go 4 courts down to go tell this lady off. She puts on whatever clothes she needs to, and then you come back. We win the match, obviously.
I don't know if it was right in the middle. We might have been warming up, but
No,
it
no,
was
no.
in.
It was in the middle. I remember this. It was in the middle. Play had been started.
Oh, well, when you're a tournament director, you got to take care of things. So
You got to get it
that
done.
you got to get it done. And Paul and I are a great team. He makes everything happen, but sometimes I got to be the one to be the enforcer because he's really good at making everyone happy, and I got to be the one to say no sometimes. And
Yeah, yeah, I gotcha.
playing the Beer City Open in your sports bra was not it.
All right, one last question. Do you think it's important for these events going forward to have this sort of local tournament director with the support of MLP PPA? Like, to me, it really feels like Beer City and, say, Atlanta are really good examples of how good that can be when you have it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it helped. It does certainly doesn't hurt. We're getting the whole community engaged. When you fly into Grand Rapids for the tournament, you'll see like welcome to Beer City. Those type of signs are at our airport. So the entire city is knows what's happening this week. And it's Pickleball week in Grand Rapids. I've heard all the hotels are sold out in downtown, not just our partners. So the week is going to be packed. And as far as player experience is concerned, I think it's the same thing. We're working on having events, not just for the pros, but for amateurs. Other things are going on, and that's so important. And then as a player, I agree. Like Atlanta is probably my other favorite event on the tour, because probably the same reason. They have great local engagement. The fans are there even on Tuesday when the tournament starts. They probably have the biggest amount of fans showing up early in the week. And I think that's because Chris and his team do such a good job there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, anything else we should know about the Beer City Open for this year?
No, I just, come on out and watch. I think our facility is one of the more intimate facilities. So you really feel, as a player playing on our court, you feel all the fans right there. But then the other thing is, if you're coming to watch as a fan, you are as close to pro pickleball as you're ever going to get at the Beer City Open. And, we are excited to have everyone there.
Perfect. Well, Andrea, thanks, or Koopy, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. And yeah, Beer City, couple events from now, but always my favorite of the year. So good to finally have you on. And thanks for telling us about SportsCenter and the Beer City Open.
Let's go. See you soon.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Tice, does your hat simply say balls on it?
No. It's actually my buddy's brand that he ended up selling. It's Baller. Zane, it's not balls.
Wait, hold on. Let me see if. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I just have a gutter mind, and it's.
I know you do.
Very, very apparent. But T-Dog, thanks for coming back on the pod. How was commentary this weekend?
Good. It was really fun. Got to commentate with both So finally, Dave Fleming took a weekend off, which is good for him. That guy just has a motor. Like, he goes from place to place. I think he did like 6 weeks in a row. So he took a weekend off. Will Doughton and Michelle McMahon were the main commentators of MLP San Clemente. I got to do 3 with Will and 1 with Michelle. And, as with anything, even with the pod and other things like that, it's all about the reps. Like, I'm feeling way more comfortable commentating, not sounding like a blubbering idiot most of the time. Like, I've reduced the unforced errors, if you will, significantly.
There we go. Nice. Well, good. Hey, I think everybody, at least in the Twitter space, likes having you on, and it's good to have somebody that knows what they're talking about out there too, with some stats and whatnot to back it up. So, honestly, let's get into MLP, PPA, San Clemente, all that stuff. Yep. Before the weekend even started, we had the Ranchers trading away Etta Tuianatoa for Caitlin Christian, which I was taking a look online. The Ranchers were getting shredded on this one.
Roasted.
They were getting absolutely roasted, and I feel like it was very, very unwarranted. But let me know, what do you think about this trade, Etta for Caitlin Christian?
Yeah, so I saw the same exact thing. Listen, if you just look at this trade from like a name and doubles perspective, I completely get the roasting, but this is a much more nuanced move from Texas. So let's talk about it first. First, cash was sent by Carolina.
Yeah, they gotta let us know how much cash is sent there, right? Like, is this a $1 fine? Is this a 50,000 Wang Yun fine? Like, we gotta get the cash number published.
I agree. We need cash numbers published. And even if like the league doesn't want to do exact dollar amounts for whatever PR reasons, I'm not quite sure why we're not publishing it. But even if you didn't want to, even if they came out with like a range of what the dollars was, I think that would help the public kind of understand. I will say this. I know how much money it was. I'm not going to get us fined, but I will say it's not an insignificant amount of money. It is in the 5 figures, well into the 5 figures. So money was sent from Carolina to Texas. So first of all, they're paying, obviously. Now, Etta has been a very good player for a long period of time, okay? But if you look at her record this year in MLP, she's 7-5 in women's doubles with Tina. She's 7-5 with Christian. 7-5
Christian
ain't
should not
getting
be
it done.
7-5. Nobody should be 7-5 with Christian in mixed doubles, respectfully.
Right, and I will also argue Christian is not playing his best this year in sure. MLP. So, but the combo of them 7-5, like you just can't have that happen, right? So not playing up to standards. Then you have the whole situation of they're in the playoffs. Like, there's no way they're not making the playoffs. Okay. So when you get to the playoffs, what is the best way for you to increase your odds of winning multiple playoff matches? Dream breakers.
Yeah,
Everybody's
you
going
got to be able to
close.
win a dream breaker. You cannot consistently beat a top 3 team of Flash, Shock, or the Fives without being able to win a dream breaker, and they just weren't going to do that.
Yeah, they were 0-3 in Dream Breakers, and I think they were going to be 0 infinity in Dream Breakers with Etta. Okay, now there's a couple of other things that are, again, this is a nuanced situation that I want to bring up. I brought it up on a quick little video I made on X, but Caitlin Christian costs nearly $130,000 less for the Ranchers to keep next year rather than Etta. Okay, so that's a huge savings in and of itself. Secondly, and not like, this is not just a small little thing. With the rules, and you guys are going to have to go through this too, Zane, like with the rules of keepers and all of that starting from 2024, the Ranchers were going to need to either drop or trade at one of the following 3 players, Etta, Tina, or Christian at the end of this year. Right? And so this helps them kind of just make a decision for themselves. They trade Etta. Now they can keep Christian and Tina, and they can keep Caitlin, and obviously they can keep Eric. So while on a face value, I understand the public, there's a lot of nuance here. And for Carolina,
I think it makes the Hogs better too.
it makes the Hogs better, way better, right away. And
Yeah.
Etta and Ben have played together.
Yeah.
Won 2 golds last year, and they've won 2 MLP events. So I think
now
it's a
Ben
good trade
wins 2 matches, and it's a dream breaker, right? Like previously, he just he wasn't winning too many with Tammy. I have to assume Ben plays with Etta. I would feel like it would be a pretty big strategy error for her not to. But I think
because then you're always winning too.
Right. I feel like this helps both sides, to be quite honest.
100%.
Yeah, lots of hate on the Ranchers for this one. I thought it was a good trade for them. Makes sense.
Agreed.
Now the other thing like that I found more interesting than the trade itself was and cash. And cash hasn't been a consideration for the Hogs at all for the last year and a half outside of Ben. They have spent $0 on anything but Ben. So, like, is Ben sick of losing? Does Ben want to win now? Like, does Tom and the team want to win now? Like, and cash, and you're speculating that it's a 5-figure or 6-figure amount or whatever you
Definitely
amount.
not 6 figures, but it's 5 figures for sure.
Yeah, like, and cash is. I think it means the Hogs are getting serious.
Zane, you and I have had this conversation a couple of times, not the and cash part, but there's indications where like, oh, maybe the Hogs will care, and then they don't, and then they don't, and then they don't.
That's fair.
This one feels different to me, honestly, because this is the first time in a year and a half the and cash part has ever entered the equation.
Right. So maybe I'm idealistic, Tice. Maybe I like to see the best in people, T-Dog.
Yeah, that's you. That's for sure you. Also, we got the midseason tournament happening in like 2 weeks. Whichever like top seed gets paired up against the Hogs, if they are actually trying, is going to be so pissed that they got them. It's not going to be funny.
Right. Yeah. It's like, you just don't want to get them on a day that they try.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, getting into San Clemente MLP results, I was disappointed in the Mad Drops. In Daytona, they looked like a real, like, oh, wow, they're probably in that 4 spot in our power rankings. Like, they beat the St. Louis Shock. They had a good weekend, beat the Ranchers. Like, but this weekend, they only scored 9 out of 15 points. And this was their weekend to really sort of run the table, if you will, right? Like, now there were good teams of Columbus and Brooklyn, but Brooklyn having none of their men's players and still beating the Mad Drops in regulation was just that's just brutal.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, what are you thinking about the Mad Drops after this weekend?
First of all, I will say I know the Mad Drops are disappointed in the weekend, just like you and I were like expecting a bunch more points. Now, here's the one thing that I will say. Exact opposite of the Ranchers, right? Like, They didn't play well in a couple of, they went Dream Breaker with, I want to say Utah and SoCal, or they went Dream Breakers multiple times is what I'm trying to say. And they're winning every Dream Breaker. Okay.
Yeah, they're not losing a Dream Breaker. I
Right,
think they're
and
probably the
yeah.
number one Dream Breaker team.
For sure. And so, honestly, that first day, Wang Yung looked a little off to me. I don't know what it was. He was a little just trigger happy, especially in men's. I think it was oh, we might be able to roll over AJ Kohler and Rafa Hewitt. We're not going to take them seriously. And all of a sudden, because I was there watching, and I was screaming. I was you listen, you could do a lot of things correct, but you cannot drive the ball through Rafa Hewitt and AJ Kohler. That's not going to work. And they wouldn't drop. And I think they lost bad. But as the weekend progressed, a couple of good things happened. First of all, they got a regulation win on the second day, and then on the third day, on Sunday, they did get a very, very good win over Columbus in a Dream Breaker.
Yeah,
and then they ran up against a very angry Jessie Irvin, who got them to a Dream Breaker. But then I think they won 21-6. I think that's the second best Dream Breaker win I've ever heard of, other than a 21-4 last year sometime.
Yeah. So I mean, they're a team that's better built for the playoffs.
Agreed.
So they struggled. Let's see. Let's edge our viewers a little bit. Let's talk about Brooklyn for a second before we talk about Jessie and Genie Bouchard. So Brooklyn, Deckel is still out due to an illness. He's been out for some time now. Missed San Clemente, missed San Clemente MLP as well.
Yeah.
And Riley out with his partial hip tear. Pat Smith out for whatever reason. Pat Smith was out. You know why Pat was out? Illness. Pat was also ill. They got all three of their boys out. So they pick up AJ and Rafa, which wild to me that neither of those players are picked up on Challenger.
Right.
That doesn't, or bench players with another person's team, both good team vibe guys. And they pick up wins after wins this weekend and play good mixed. Brooklyn ended up with 10 out of 15 points, or 10 out of 12 points. Tying the most amount of points won this weekend with neither of their men's starters. You couldn't ask for a better weekend for Brooklyn, which also kept them in that number 4 position.
Yeah.
Pretty huge for them.
In my preview, I was listen, this is not going to go well. If they get 4 or maybe 5 points, they're going to be happy with that, because you have 2 subs, right? And they exceeded all expectations. I said the onus was going to be on Jackie and Rachel. And what happened? Rachel went undefeated 8-0 and helped carry that team. She went 4-0 with Jackie and 4-0 with AJ. And listen, I'm not saying Rachel carried the whole thing. Rachel played very well. AJ played incredible in mixed too. I just need to point that out. It wasn't he was playing unbelievable. And so, yeah, I mean, Brooklyn is super stoked about their weekend.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Now, I got to ask you, they played 2 players that weren't their bench players and weren't penalized. So previously, if you played somebody that was not on your roster, you got a point penalty in every match that they played. They didn't get any point penalties.
Yes. Let me explain.
Tice, do your Tice thing. Tell me.
Okay. What you just said was slightly incorrect, and here's why.
Fuck!
And this happened in Daytona. I want to point that out with none other than AJ Kohler again. So here's the rule, and it's slightly different than what you said. It has nothing to do with using on-site alternates or not. It has to do with, did you travel your entire team that could play? And so in Daytona, Donald Young now had an excused injury. I didn't, he played the next week. I'm not sure, whatever. But he was excused from traveling because he was injured. So New York traveled Zane. This is back to Daytona Beach for a second for people. Mm-hmm. New York traveled Zane Ford and Stephen Madonia. Zane Ford played in his first match. I think he took a medical for about 7 different medical situations. I think he threw up. I think he had an ankle. I think there was 7 billion things happening. He couldn't play the rest of the matches. Well, he's sick or hurt or all of that. Plus Donald Young is injured and excused. So they traveled everybody they could. They had Stephen Madonia. And so they didn't get penalized. Same exact thing for Brooklyn. Obviously, Riley can't play. He has an actual hip injury. Deckel is sick. And Pat Smith, I heard, traveled, but just couldn't get, was too sick to play. So they traveled everybody they could. Therefore, they did not get hit with that 0-1 or 0-2 penalty. Hope that makes sense.
Sure. So if your alternate is there and deemed to they can't play for whatever reason, you can then pick up the on-site alternate without a penalty.
Correct. Yep.
I don't like it. You can just manipulate that. How do we know? Look, I'm never listen. Pat Smith would never do this, right? I'm not saying Pat would do this. I'm saying it could be done. What
for sure
did Samin go check his doctor's note or something like that? It's easy enough to throw in a I'm too sick to play sort of deal. That can be manipulated. There's no incentive or no strong reason to not play your starters, but there is pretty good reasons to not play your bench players when there's better alternatives. I don't like it.
I get overall picture. I agree with you because there are many situations where you're right. On certain teams, the on-site alternates are going to be better than a team's third. In this particular situation, I don't think any of that happened. I think Brooklyn would have rather played Pat than 100%. One of the other guys.
In this particular situation, I have no. I'm just saying, where there is opportunity for manipulation, there will eventually be manipulation.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Yeah. So
is there a way to fix that?
Yeah, you still get a point penalty.
But
if I don't think a single point is enough of a penalty. It's clearly proving not to be enough of a penalty because people keep using the alternates instead of their own bench players.
I would disagree with that. Over Phoenix, Daytona, and San Clemente, we saw a bunch of actual subs play in games. And yes, we saw on-site subs, but what else was Brooklyn supposed to do? They have 3 guys.
Yeah, Brooklyn's an exception on this one.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. I don't know. Let's keep watching for that because it is an interesting thing. If AJ Kohler plays for one more team, though,
AJ Kohler is I feel like we've just got to give him the 6th man of the year award type of deal. He's putting up a full season worth of stats. He's
played in 3 events.
Yeah. Yeah. That's as many events as the Columbus Sliders have played.
Actually oh, that is true. He actually just beat his own. He played for LA in place of Hunter and then just played for Brooklyn and beat LA, the first team that he subbed for.
That's funny. Oh, man, the Pickleball Voyager. All right, so one more thing before we get to Jessie and Genie. The Hard Eights are not good, but they are really good to watch. They are fun to watch, man. Blaine brings awesome energy. Ryan Fu is just an all-around great dude. Kaylin Campbell partnering up with Jelena Ingram now for the first time at 15 and 17 years old. What a fun team to watch.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody as I watched their first match, and I was like, I'm much older than Jelena and Kaylin's combined age right now. This is making me feel terrible about myself, but they're super fun to watch. Blaine is just, like you said, brings so much good energy. And I said this in my recap. I don't mean this as a bad thing, a diss, or anything like that. Sometimes I just have to tell it like it is. First 2 events of MLP 2025. I was like, what was Adam Stone thinking with Ryan Fu here? This is not going well. He's not playing well. He had some bad energy a little bit, and he just wasn't winning, making unforced errors, the whole 9, whatever. When I watched him in San Clemente, I was like, this is a different person. His hands were unbelievable. His energy was unbelievable. And he won them a bunch of points and a bunch of actual standings points. So really happy that he had a really great weekend. And the girls got 2 wins, their first 2 wins together. It's really tough not rooting for that team.
Yeah, for sure. The underdog story that we love. Did you catch their match against Phoenix on Saturday by chance?
I don't think I know. I didn't because I was commentating Grandstand.
No? Okay. I don't know about this. I heard him and Sock were beefing a little bit.
Oh, I did see that. I don't understand it. It's just I'm trying to think. It's like, I forget who actually. Somebody was beefing with Connor Garnett, in PPA a couple of times, and I'm just like
Who could you
Connor
beef? Who could beef with Connor Garnett?
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can't talk smack to Connor. And it's the same thing with Blaine. Like, he's a young kid, super good energy, never talks smack back to anybody. Like, he's not going out of his way to like upset you. He's trying to help his team. So to go after Blaine, I think is just like kind of like a Bush League type of thing.
Okay, well, I didn't know exactly what happened, but it was basically like Jack kind of going at Blaine. Now Blaine is
yeah.
loud, right? Like, but yeah, he's never at you. He's just like loud for his squad.
Blaine's loudness is actually hilarious, especially when he plays with Jelena, because I think he's actually a very good mixed player, and he gets big and drives.
Mhm.
And like, I've seen him multiple times smash a serve, smash a third, smash a fifth, and then finish a seventh and be like, yeah, Jelena, that's all you, as he's like walking back. And I'm like, bro, like, you can't possibly believe this, but like, that's how he is. So it's like, it's always hyping up him and his team. So
Yeah. No, I think Blaine, I feel like we got to do like pro pickleball approval ratings. Blaine has got to be like up at the top there. All right. Let's now get into the Vibes team that is no longer of the Phoenix
no longer Vibes,
Flames.
yeah.
So I'll give a little bit of backstory to this. So obviously there was the blow up between Genie and Jessie, which led to Jessie not playing on Saturday matches and then Genie not playing one of the Sunday matches. Now, we got to kind of take a look at what was the Arizona Drive and what is now the Phoenix Flames.
Mhm.
So last year, Arizona was the Arizona Drive. Like, they were a pretty good team. They had Andre Deascu, Dylan Frazier, Lacey Schneeman, and Caitlin Christian. Decent team. I think they probably underperformed what they were looking to. But like, you look at that team and you're not going to say that that's a shitter team, right? Like this
For
year,
sure.
that team this year is comfortably in the playoffs. They're probably looking. They're probably at that like 8th spot is where I would probably put that team. Pretty far ahead of Utah and Miami. Orlando obviously has Dylan and Lacey now, so you can't really make that comparison. But they're certainly in the top 8 teams.
Yep.
Somehow or another, I don't even remember how this ended up happening. They ended up getting Megan Dazan over the offseason, and they ended up basically transferring ownership from the Arizona Drive and transferring that to the Proton owners, rebranding as the Phoenix Flames, and then proceeded to gut their team. They got rid of Andre, who is the leader of that team. They got rid of Dylan. They got rid of Lacey sometime during that period. I don't understand how they ended up getting. I don't remember how they ended up getting Megan Dazan, but then they traded Megan Dazan with us for Genie Bouchard. So they went from Andre, Lacey, Dylan, Megan to Tyson, Jack, Genie, Jessie. They went from like winning to Vibes, more or less.
For sure. Yeah. Just to fix your memory. I don't know what the right word is. Orlando had, let's see if I can get this right. Orlando had Tyson and Meg because Columbus had traded Meg to Orlando. So
that was a 2-player trade. They traded.
Yeah.
Got it.
Phoenix traded Lacey and Dylan to Orlando for Tyson and Meg, and then Meg to you guys.
Got it. So, I mean, either way, they kind of offloaded all the best players from their team. And then, I honestly had them as a borderline playoff team early in this year, right? Like, I thought that they could sneak into a 9-10 position.
We were both right there.
Yeah, they're not winning. They're frustrated. And that brings us up to this weekend. And you were on site. I think you have more information than I do. Take us through what happened with Jessie and Genie.
Yeah, so I'll go into as much information as I have. I don't want to give any misinformation. I was there. I saw some of it, but not all of it. So Friday, they were training, and I don't know the exact specifics, but Friday they were training. They were doing a practice session, and I think a lob went up or something happened where both Genie and Jessie were going for a ball. One player pushed the other player kind of off the court, didn't apologize for it, and was like, whatever, like something. It was like a random thing that happened in the middle of the moment, whatever. So now their tensions are a little high. I was at grandstand. So at San Clemente, there's like the grandstand court is right next to 2 practice courts for MLP. And so if your team is warming up, they're probably warming up on those 2 practice courts. And there's courts further down where you can also warm up or practice if you need to. Before their match on Saturday, Jessie and Alex Walker showed up early. Like, I'm saying at least an hour and a half before their match, because
Jessie does love a
does.
very, very long warm up.
For sure. And I don't blame her. Every player is different on that stuff. And I don't think she felt comfortable with a couple of shots, like maybe some transition zone or third shot drops or something like that. So she wanted to drill with Alex, because Alex was like, yeah, by all means, that, good bench players are doing that very regularly with their starters. So they go down to the lower courts for like 45 minutes and drill. Now Tyson is warming up. Jessie comes back up. They're warming up. Jack shows up. He's warming up. Genie shows up a little bit after, 30, 20 minutes before the match, something like that. They start warming up. And basically, I don't think Genie was taking it very seriously. I think she was talking to fans in the crowd while warm-up points are happening. I don't know that to be 100% true, but that's what I heard. And basically, Jessie was sick of her not trying in the warm-up and said, like, hey, we need to get this together. And Genie didn't really respond, and Jessie walked off and said, like, I don't have to play here. Like, I don't have to do this. And she was frustrated because she wanted Genie to give it 100%. Genie said something to her. Don't know exactly what that was, but Jessie got her stuff and walked to her car and left the facility and was not seen at the facility on Saturday again, unless somebody saw her. But everybody I talked to did not see her again.
Damn.
So all of a sudden, everybody's scrambling. They go from warming up to, okay, what do we do? Alex, you're going to start in Jessie's place. And Genie and Alex played both Saturday matches together. I think some calls were made on Saturday from the Phoenix Flames ownership, front office management group to Jessie and Genie trying to figure out what to do. I think the solution, at least, I don't know anything past this. I can just tell you what happened. Genie and Alex played the first match on Sunday, and then Alex and Jessie played the second match on Sunday. So Jessie and Genie did not play together on Sunday. I don't know what that means, but I also know that Jessie was very angry and beat an extremely elite Catherine Parento and Jade Kawamoto 11-3 with Alex Walker.
Yeah.
And then dominated it mixed with Tyson. So I think she was trying to prove a point of her level of play, if I had to guess.
Yeah, and point proven. I said this in my recap video. Like, that is one of the biggest statement matches I've ever seen. She came out and played unbelievably and beat 2 very, very good teams. And honestly, like, the win with Alex is more impressive not because Alex isn't a good player, but because she's a sub, as well as playing against, on a given day, Jade and Catherine could be the best team in Major League Pickleball. They've beaten all of the top 3 teams that all the other top 3 teams. Yeah, big statement match. Now, I mean, you've got to imagine somebody is getting traded from this team.
Yeah.
You also can't imagine that from a play standpoint, it's going to be Genie, right? Like, Genie is untradeable from a play perspective. Now, there's no team in Premier that would I think benefit from having Genie there. Like, there's other reasons to have it, marketability, whatever.
Right.
But you got to think they're shipping Jessie off or fielding a lot of offers this week, don't you?
Yeah, for sure. I don't see them. You have to remember that, like you said earlier, this is not an unknown thing. The Proton is an owner of the Phoenix Flames, and Genie is a signed Proton player now. So that needs to be said. I don't think they're trading Genie, like you said. I don't know any team in Premier that would want her.
Yeah, but they haven't had any problem. They traded away all their Proton players previously. They traded away Andre. They traded away Megan.
And CJ, yeah.
CJ. So that doesn't. that one doesn't fully make sense to me. But I just think they're not trading Genie because nobody would want Genie.
Right,
if
yeah.
they're serious about winning.
Now, it's interesting you bring that up, Zane, because about 10 minutes ago, we were talking about another team that wasn't very good, that could become very good, and they want to be very good by spending some dollars, who also has a best friend on that team that would make them a lot better. And of course, I'm talking about the Carolina Hogs. Could you
Yeah,
imagine?
to me, that seems like the most
Yeah.
low-hanging, clear fruit. But who do the Hogs send back? Tammy,
Liz Trueluck.
Liz Trueluck.
Yeah.
Okay,
Why
so
not?
they'd have to pay some. I guess they probably wouldn't even have to pay some cash. They know that.
I mean, this is important to note. I understand. Jessie has not been winning playing with Genie, so she's probably frustrated about not winning, right? I also understand Genie is playing her hardest. She's there. She has a good attitude. It's not like she's scowling on the sideline or being a bad partner. She's trying.
I don't know. The towel thing was pretty funny.
The
Did you see
towel
those
thing was
pictures?
pretty. That was. I'm so
For
surprised.
those of you guys who
memes
don't
hasn't-
know, you'll have to look it up. Genie basically went full burqa in towels.
it was wrapped. There was no
It
chance
was-
any sun was touching her skin.
For sure. It was pretty funny. Worthwhile looking up. But anyway,
I'm so
sorry,
surprised memes hasn't picked that up, to be honest.
Right.
By the time this airs, I'm guessing memes will. But all that to say, I get both sides. You don't want to be treated poorly. You also want to win. All of those things. This is sports, people. This is team sports, right? So when this happens, though, the one thing that Zane is alluding to is okay, we have a personnel issue. So everybody knows that probably somebody is getting traded. That somebody is probably Jessie. And therefore, her trade value goes down because of that, is what Zane is talking about, right? If, I don't think, because it's a known thing that she's being traded, the negotiating power just isn't going to be there for Phoenix. So, but now, here's the other thing, Zane. A bunch of teams are playing MLP New York City this week. One of those teams is Carolina. So if they want to get something done, I would think they want to do it in the next 2 or 3 days so that they could get her going with that team. Maybe not. There's no rush because there's still a little over 2 weeks until the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when is the trade deadline?
Wednesday, July 16th at 10 p.m. Glad you asked.
Jesus, man. You need other hobbies.
I do. I agree.
Gotcha. So honestly, even though there wasn't a tremendous amount of movement in the standings, there were some pretty decent playoff implications.
Columbus
looking
moved
at
up
this,
3.
What's that? Columbus moved up 3. Yeah, they'd only played two events previously, and one of them was missing CJ, so that's not super surprising, I think, to most. Brooklyn coming in clutch with those points was huge. I think that the standings are pretty indicative of where teams are right now in terms of power rankings.
Yeah, I would agree. After next week, I'll have... So all of the match grids are available now to teams. And so for the rest of the season, I now have what the schedule is. And this week, I'm going to work on that strength of schedule thing that we've looked at before to see. But that St. Louis event is really top heavy, and there's a lot of tough teams in that one. So I'm very interested to see the results from that. And that's in 3 or 4 weeks.
Gotcha. All right, T-Dog. Anything else that you got from this weekend?
Just real quick. We talked about the Brooklyn. Good on Tyler Loong for gutting it out after a dirt biking accident. I saw him that first day and I was like, how or why are you playing? He definitely didn't need to be there, right? But he was there for his teammates, and I think that says something. His leg looked really messed up, and his right wrist was in some sort of cast, I think. So, anyways, good on him for playing through that, because I know a lot of players probably would not have done that.
Yeah, apparently 15 stitches and in a brace. Pardoe actually tweeted out that he thinks Tyler is better in a brace. Pardoe was popping off on Tyler on Twitter. How if you're a team owner and your dude gets messed up dirt biking, you got to be kind of pissed. What did you think was going to happen? It's not like you were walking down the street and you had a freak accident, you're fucking dirt biking. Like, this shit's gonna happen.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Pardoe trolled him pretty hard on Twitter, like, multiple times. It was pretty funny.
It was funny that the first one was, imagine getting injured riding a bike. He didn't point out that it was dirt biking, but
Right.
that was cleverly left out. So,
Yeah.
all right, well, we actually have Pardoe coming on here in a few minutes. Before that, I'm going to crank on some questions that I missed over the past couple of weeks. But
Nice.
T-Dog, appreciate you coming on as always. We'll do it again next week.
Yep. Sounds good, man. See ya.
Later. All right, so I missed questions last time. I'm sorry about that, guys. We'll get back on it next time. I'm going to bang through some of these. Somebody on YouTube said, would Georgia and CP challenge ALW and Anna Bright? Georgia seems to be problematic for that team in a way. I just don't think Catherine has enormous firepower there. So maybe more so than Catherine and Rachel. But then again, Georgia and Tyra have a good thing going on too. I think Georgia and Tyra are probably the team that has the best shot, more so than Georgia and Catherine. Will PPA resemble LPGA in the future with a strong influx of Asian players? Maybe. Maybe. Like right now, I think it'll probably end up being somewhere between golf and tennis. Tennis, there's not a crazy amount of Asian players. Golf, there is a good chunk of it. It'll be somewhere in between. Patrick Snyder, 3446. Nice to get a good look at the guy that blew off the double bounce hit he hit during the winning point. There's no way in hell he didn't know it bounced twice. Patrick, you are so full of shit. There's no way to know that. There's no way to even know it watching that. So that is a bum-ass comment, dude. Bum comment. Nico the Lefty on X asks, this is an interesting question. Nico has good conversation points. How would a team of non-UPA signed players do if they created an MLP team? Monroe, Sewing, Fudge, Hayworth, PJ, etc. Chicago Slice was basically that last year, and they got promoted. They had Allison Harris, Brendan Long, Jack Monroe, and Megan Fudge, and they did well enough to get promoted. I think that that team is a bottom-feeding ML Premier team, decent enough challenger team. Leia Jansen talked about Fed using the Pro Force Scorpius that allows him to get more pace on the ball. Can you explain that in more depth? I don't. Yeah, he's using the more square paddle as opposed to the long paddle. Using more of a standard shape as opposed to the elongated shape. The standard type shapes generally have a little bit bigger sweet spot, but the longer shapes should get you more power on a fast swing speed. So it probably depends on what context. Spider Kane said the PPA is resembling F1 where there's only one or two players and teams that have a chance to win every time. Do you feel like this is good or bad for pickleball? I don't think that's the case. I think we've got a big four in men's doubles. I think men's singles is anybody's game. And then anything that Anna Lee plays, she basically wins. So you have a good balance of both. You have parity on the men's side, and then you have dominance on the women's side. And it was the opposite for a little while there, too. Ben was totally dominant in men's, and there was some good parity in women's for a little bit there. Prime LOL on X asks, how are the new generation of pickleball players different than the old guards? New players are just far more aggressive and far more fast twitch, wristy. They're coming up with new shots, and they seem to read and recognize patterns in quick hands exchanges better. Old guard of players seem to be better and more disciplined dinkers. New players seem to be very aggressive, wristy, and very quick in the hands. Ken in Brooklyn asks, how much stock do you put in duper rating? I mean, it depends how much reliability there is behind that, how many matches they have in that algorithm. I think it is, people love to shit on duper. I feel like duper is actually a pretty good gauge of talent, or it's certainly the best gauge of talent that we have as long as somebody puts in enough matches. I think at the pro level, everybody has their complaints and their gripes. I think it does do a pretty good job, or at least better than anything else. That's for sure. JK Smalltime asks, do you feel like you try too hard when playing against supposedly superior players? I mean, some people do. I don't know if you're talking about me specifically. Some people certainly do that. Some people also rise to playing better against better teams. I think that I tend to do that more. You can play with sort of nothing to lose in that. When are Tyra and Georgia going to team up again? Asked John Monk. I think they're basically playing half the year together. So this new account, Dave Fleming, the disgrace of the Berg. I don't think this is actually Dave Fleming. I think this is a Dave Fleming troll or burner or whatever account. Has 3 questions. He wants to know who the most likely mixed team is to make a dominant run against Johns and Waters. Nobody at this point. I think maybe a team of like Christian and Georgia or J-Dub and Georgia, I think would be solid. I'd like to see maybe Tyra in there somewhere or another as well. From my contracts video, we had a couple of interesting comments on Instagram and YouTube. Jackie Gwitty asked, do pros pay entry fees out of their own pocket? Depends if you're a signed contracted player or not. Contracted players don't. Players who want to come in and play who aren't contracted do. Where do you need to finish to break even? Probably need to qualify and win at least a round to break even, I would guess. KJK Wank asks, do the majority of players file a 1099? Curious if any flight, hotel, travel benefits will carry over. We're all 1099'd by the league, so I don't know what you mean by that. We're supposed to. I do my taxes. Yeah, so I don't know what that question. Maybe there's more to that question. On YouTube, Mike Medellin asks, based on all the changes in player payment since the beginning, what does that say about the PPA and UPA? Feels like lack of vision that's viable for the future of the league. Is it time to bring in new blood with more of a business background? So, I think it would be very, very, very. I think it would be impossible when Pardoe and Ken Herman and these guys, Steve Kuhn, founded these leagues in 2020 to know what the future was going to hold. So, they had to change these contracts because there were 2 different incentives. In Tour Wars, they needed to sign players. And post-Tour Wars, they need to run a sustainable business. So the goalposts have moved. I don't think it's a lack of strategy. I think it's, the objectives changed and you have to change your payment structure as a result of it. I think there is a good case to be made that we could have some more, legitimate executives from, NFL, NBA, tennis, whatever, come on over. I'm sure that's something that is being sought after behind the scenes. Michael Evans 3449 asks, what if a player refuses to restructure their contract? They get paid out through 2026 and the league is saying that they will not re-sign them for 2027 and beyond. But I'll ask Pardoe that as well. Jake Holkman asks, how does MLP fit into this? Basically, in MLP, you're going to be paid an appearance fee based on your PPA ranking. I think eventually you should have a payment go from the team. I think eventually PPA should be completely incentive-based. MLP should be completely guaranteed salary-based. Similar to tennis versus the NBA. Darth Panda asks, wonder when Jack Monroe is going to sign PPA or MLP. I wonder that too. I don't know. UUTG7QE said, Zane going to be bringing back that chainsaw serve to get that incentive dollars. 100%. If I could get away with it, I would. So thanks for submitting questions. Sorry I missed them last week, and I will be back on it next week. Appreciate all you guys who put in your questions. That's wild. You're on here to come talk to me while you're on vacation. What's up with that?
Always, dude. You call, I answer. Simple. It's simple.
All right. Well, I appreciate it because I got good questions for you.
Cool.
I dug up the Althoff pickleball sweatshirt just to prove that I'm going to be an asshole right now. So
did you design that? Who designed that?
No. I had nothing to do with this. I had nothing to do with it, but when I saw it come out, I was like, that's the funniest thing ever. How much Vibe merch do you have left over, by the way?
Not much. We actually ended up doing a second run of everything. So we sold out of everything and then we did a second run and we're probably about out now. It's just, there's a few things you can get online at pickleballcentral.com, and then other than that, you might find a goodie at a PPA or MLP event at the merch store. You might find a
I'm
goodie
gonna
now
go
or
buy
then.
those up. Those are like I keep saying it. Those are like old Enron t-shirts that are just worth like way too much right now.
No, totally. Like one
Um,
day, one day they're gonna be worth a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so I wanted to talk to you about the player contract
Mhm.
extensions, right? So over the past week or so, it was publicized by The Kitchen and pickleball.com. And then I think Eric at the Dink wrote an article about the contract extensions that are going out right now. And the basics of it, for those of you guys who don't know what we're talking about, are a lot of these players had guaranteed contracts through the end of 2026. And so, what this extension proposes is it takes the guaranteed amount that a player was owed for 2026 and it spreads that amount equally over 2026, 2027, 2028 as the floor of the player's contract. And then there were pretty substantial prize money pools on top of that. Did the numbers, and Anna Lee is looking at $113,000 for triple crowning a slam. And so there was, what was it, $15 million in prize money per year?
Yeah, so
Um,
so starting for next year, it would be $15 million of prize money per year, and then a minimum of $5 million internationally. So
mhm.
a total prize purse pot of $20 million, and we expect that to grow. As the tour grows, as the league grows, we expect that number to grow over time. But yeah, no, we're super excited about it. We think it solves a few things that we're trying to solve, and is also super exciting for fans, understanding that there's something that everybody's playing for every single match.
Yeah, I feel like it's easy to say right now, like, it makes no sense for players to not really be playing for substantial prize money, but that's pretty ignorant of the history of Tour Wars, right? So the objective during Tour Wars wasn't to create the best possible payment structure for players and fans, it was to sign talent, right? Now that you have talent all under one umbrella, how do we work towards what is actually ideal for the fans and the proper incentives for players?
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
I
you're
mean,
100% spot on. 100% spot on. I mean, you look at it and you say it's funny because you see some people online that maybe have come into pickleball over the last 12 months, 24 months, and they say, "Hey, like this doesn't make any sense. I don't understand why they're not playing for prize money on the PPA tour, or what's the incentive to play Major League Pickleball?" And when you really think about the whole history of where the sport was, us trying to professionalize it, and now us trying to make it the best possible sports property moving forward, it unfortunately you couldn't do everything the exact way you wanted it, the way you wanted to do it. You had to roll with the punches and try to grow a sports property. And I think we're doing a pretty good job. And I think 5 years from now, people will say, yeah, these guys have it figured out.
yeah. Um, so I'm not going to ask you the easy questions. I'm going to ask you the
Sure.
harder questions about this and the questions that I feel like are being asked online, right?
I wouldn't
So,
expect anything
and I
less.
will, I'll preface this by saying I am 90% aligned with everything that you're doing. I'm going to ask about the 10%, not the 90% that I agree with. Okay.
Sure.
So, the couple of questions that I have is, first and foremost, what happens if some player simply says, "Nope, I'm good with the contract that I have. Like, I don't want to sign an extension."
Yeah, I think that obviously is a great question. For us, I think fortunately, this is something that we've been contemplating for a long time now. And you would know, I'd been calling you, asking your advice and asking what your thoughts may be, in pertaining to this. So this isn't something that we just thought of all of a sudden and said, hey, we're going to do this and let's make a bunch of changes. This has been something we've been thinking about for, gosh, at the board level, almost immediately when the merger got done, right? And what we're really focused on is trying to create the best future for professional pickleball and create something for people that want to be around this game for a long time. And so fortunately, I think, when we looked at trying to put this together, we really had two things we were trying to achieve. One, we wanted to make it great for the players, and two, we wanted to make it great for the business. And those are two things that, people in our company, they'll hear me say, quite often. If there's anyone that works here that's a decision maker, those are the two things you really need to think about. How does this impact the players? How does this impact the business? And you know what? Like, most of the time, you're going to be able to make decisions that are great for both those two things. You're going to be able to do stuff that's great for the players and great for the business. And then there's going to be some times where you might have a decision that's great for the players and not so great for the business. You probably shouldn't do that. And there might be times where there's decisions you can make that is great for the business and not so great for the players, and you shouldn't do that either. And so the goal around here is always to think of those two things and do the best we can to make decisions that are going to positively impact both the business and the players. You can't have a pro sport without the best talent. Like I've said it from the very beginning, like it's very much, we need the buy-in from the best players to want to be here and want to grow this sports property. And they also need a great place to play. And I think we've done a really good job at that. Have we been perfect? No. Have we been pretty dang good? And have we worked our butts off, and does it get better every single week? I'd say yes. And I think everybody can see that. But to answer your question, what's nice is we designed this format for the most part for 95% of the players. This is a win-win for the business, and it's a win-win for the players. And so for the most part, most people are just jumping for joy that we're moving to this model, because when you look at it from the player's standpoint, it's definitely more equitable and it's definitely more fair. And those are two main things we were trying to solve there. How do we have equity and how do we have something that's fair? And so, you have some players that right now they're ranked top 10 in the world, but they might only be making $150,000 in total compensation. And then you've got other players that, might be outside the top 30, maybe even outside the top 40, and they're making north of $500,000. And so, you have to have the understanding of, right place, right time with where we were before. It's just kind of the way the world was. But moving forward, we've been looking to solve that. And so where I'm getting is I think most players are going to be on board. And for the most part, like, this has been designed with players' input. But there will be that 5-10% of players that, this might not be for them. And I think most of those players are players where, they don't really see a future playing professional pickleball any longer. They're people where maybe they're getting a little bit older, or they have something else that's maybe a little bit more interesting to pursue, or maybe the talent quite isn't there anymore. And we definitely expect a few of the people to go ahead and, we paid them their full amount last year. We're going to pay them their full amount this year. We're going to pay them their full amount next year, and they're likely going to be on their way pursuing something else.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, no, I think it makes sense. I think it's the people who were highest ranked or, signed advantageously during tour wars that haven't been able to sort of maintain that rank that are going to be hurt the most. But another party that seemingly is hurt by some of this is some of the newer players, right? So you have players, the highest tier goes to the people who did sign during the tour wars, but that next level down is players who signed since. After that, you have the sort of standard contract, and even lower than that is the unsigned players. So it seems to me like this is skewed towards current crew, with making it a little bit more difficult financially for a new player to break in, because they don't have the same access to the prize money as an existing player, where Anna Lee could win $113,000. An unsigned player that happens to get really, really, really hot and triple crown a slam is looking at $25K, something like that. It's substantially less.
Yep.
So I'm curious, do you see that being the case long term, where we're on tiered prize money systems?
Yeah, I think we were trying to solve for a few things, Zane. One main thing is players that currently have a deal that, may or may not be inflated, but have a deal with our league. They still have their piece of paper that they have with us is worth something, right? And so what we couldn't do is just say, hey, even though you have one more year on your contract, we're going to take prize money way down, or do something that we think is maybe a little bit more fair with where the business should be today. Like, you take a look at the pickleball landscape, and you say, who are the professional entities that are out there that are really doing a good job running professional pickleball events? And you look internationally, there was the PWR thing for a little while. Like that thing never even took off. I mean, your boy Will Howes is still waiting on a check, And I know you've had that guy on there, and it's hard. I'm sure it was started with like the best intentions, but running a pro sports league, it's tough, and it's not as easy as just you look at the pro payroll. We're paying $33 million this year. Like that's just part of it. I mean, we're running tons of events. We're officing out of downtown Dallas. Rent's almost $1 million a year. We have staff that we have to provide. We're trying to produce amazing content. Like it's a growth business, and so there's a lot that goes into it. But you took a look around professional pickleball, and I'd say our number one competitor right now is the APP Tour. And respectfully, they pay out $1.5 million total each year. That's what they pay out to players. I mean, that's almost the same amount we're paying Genie Bouchard, right? And so when you take a look at these standard contracts, what we wanted to do is have something that made a little bit more sense with the market and where we're at today. And we definitely think those are going to grow. We think they're going to grow. We think they're going to increase. But we had to make sure that we were also doing something enticing enough for players that were currently signed to move over to the new model, right?
Sure.
They need to feel valued for what they've done up to this point. And to be honest with you, like we couldn't have created this without the pro players. And so them being able to have this, gold prize money grid, something that is a little bit elevated than somebody just coming into the sport, like I think they deserve it. They've worked their butts off and they've helped put this business in a position where it can grow and it's going to succeed. And when people see the PPA Tour and Major League Pickleball, sports executives, they see it and they go, wow, it looks good. Your players look good. The sport looks good. You're starting to capture the sport in the right way. And we wanted to make sure that the players that have been with us from the beginning are getting properly compensated for that. But again, moving forward, you got to compare yourself to what else is out there. And It's
Sure.
still substantially higher than any other option that, that's currently out there for players. Someone will earn the money at the APP Tour, but it's only going to be one or two guys. And, there's someone there that should go and clean up because that's the best thing for them.
Mm-hmm. Do you see it? To me, this feels like a transition between fully guaranteed to fully or mostly incentive based. Do you see these extensions as sort of just bridging the gap there? And then do you eventually see two prize money tiers, a signed tier and an unsigned tier?
Yeah, I think that's it. And we might not ever even need contracts in the future. Like we're still growing, like the moat's still important. It's important for me to be able to go to our investors and say, hey, look, we've got the best talent. They're here. They're committed. We have something for the long term here. So the contracts are still super important for us in really, I think, three regards. One is us continuing to show our investors that we have a moat and, letting people understand that this is still something that is safe to invest in and it's going to be here for a period of time. And I think two, it really helps us with sponsorship deals as well. They know that they're going to have the best talent playing on our tour week in and week out. And then third, and certainly not least, it's helped us tremendously in the media space. So like contracts, I think of this very much as a bridge year. We could maybe never have contracts again after this year. I'm not exactly sure. If somebody asked me like, hey, what do you think the perfect mix is or the perfect hybrid is, Connor? I would say in 3 years from now, what I'd like to have is something where our signed players would get some kind of guarantee. Think of it somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000 a year. And then prize money that's on top of that. Because I think we can learn from like sports like the PGA or the ATP. The prize money, it's great and it's a huge incentive. But you talk to the group as a whole and having some kind of financial security there, knowing like, hey, at least this is a good job and I'm going to be able to provide for my family. And if I'm going to commit to this, I know that there's something there. I mean, for me, building a sports league from the beginning and we can really do it however we want, that's something important to me. And it's important to our board and important to our organization that we do really want to have, some financial security for players that want to commit and try to grow Major League Pickleball on the PPA Tour. But very much
I feel like that.
3 years.
I mean, I feel like that also really helps the actual product, right? Because the first time I signed a guaranteed contract where I could rely on some form of consistent payment from MLP PPA, I immediately went and invested far more in my YouTube channel and far more in my training and getting a trainer, and people can do coaching, people can do whatever. The players are going to take that guaranteed money and reinvest into themselves. They're not just going to go, I mean, some of them might go spend it on cars or whatever, but most
Not the
players are going
smart
to
one.
invest in something that improves the quality of the league overall because of that security. Interesting. So, I mean, look, I wanted to ask you the more difficult questions here, and something that you just said was very interesting. PPA has historically gotten among the very in the know people and Twitter or players or whatever. People don't like the exclusivity. Understand it from a business perspective, because you can go to investors, leagues, whatever, and say, like, look, we have all the talent locked up. But do you see that long term being something that can be dropped if the PPA, MLP, UPA group is just so far above and beyond any sort of competitor?
Yeah, and I think we're pretty close right now. I think Tom said it best. Tom Dundon, my partner, when we first started talking about him, coming in and buying the majority stake of the league. I think one thing he said to me that was so important is he said, the most important thing right now is exclusivity. And at the time, I had contracts with players where they could play 4 events a year that were outside of the PPA tour. And I remember asking Tom, I kind of knew it was important, right? Because it got the best players to come to my events. And I said, well, why is it so important? And he goes, Connor, in order for me to invest my dollars and in order for sponsors and media to really get behind us, they need to know that we have all the best players and all the best players are bought in. It's the most important thing. And so, that has been the reason why we're paying $33 million and our competitors paying $1.5 million a year, right? We understand the importance of the pro players and what we need to build. But I remember asking him about it, and he goes, one day we are not going to need these contracts. We're going to get to the point where the brand's big enough to where points and standings and being on a major league pickleball team, that's going to be enough for what we need. And, looking forward to that day. And gosh, we're a lot closer than we were 3 years ago. And let's see where the world is after these 3 years. I really feel, as the CEO of both PPA and MLP, we're at a point right now where these contract extensions, they're very important, but we're definitely on the horizon the next 3 years where it's time to take this thing, turn it profitable, and, hopefully turn this thing into $1 billion business. And I think we're on our way.
Yeah, exciting stuff. Now that was not on my radar. The potential to drop exclusivity, but if you're the biggest and best around, you don't really need it.
We need some
I mean,
time
to
to
a
grow
certain
still.
extent,
We're not
as you're
there
still
yet.
growing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotcha. A couple other things. So now now with everything shifting far more towards incentive based, like how far, and also thinking about this as an Olympic sport in 2032, we still have some work to go in terms of curtailing cheating in 3 different ways. You have paddle cheating, you have line call cheating, and you have performance enhancing drug cheating. Like, those 3 things I feel like have to be in a better spot. No?
No, I think so. I think one, if we talk about paddles in general, we're in a way better spot today than we
I
ever
agree.
have been. And I think you'd be the
Mhm.
first to say that. Like,
I
and
completely agree.
honestly, that was a difficult thing for me. Like, you really think about this, like starting the PPA tour as a 24-year-old kid, like never really doing professional sports. And all of a sudden you've got these paddles and these paddles are a problem. And you have a governing body that you're paying to come out and test paddles and do things. And I was kind of in uncharted territory. I hadn't really had much experience with that before. And luckily Tom's connections with Callaway and with golf and a few other things got us talking to the right people. We decided to form the UPAA, which has been going really well. Jason's such a great guy. I always say the number one problem with Jason is that he cares more about pickleball than he cares about the business, which makes him the perfect person for that job, by the way. Because in his heart of hearts, he loves the game, he loves the sport, he loves the pro players. So I think number one, it's come a long way as far as paddle certification, and super stoked for September 1st when the mandate comes in that everyone has to meet UPAA certification. The USA stamp will no longer mean anything for the pro game for both Major League Pickleball and the PPA Tour. So that's another step in the right direction. And look, we've invested millions of dollars over the last 2 years on trying to fix the problem and get it right. Line calling. I feel like you're always breaking news here on the pod, but we just barely signed a binding term sheet with a group that is going to be taking the same technology they're using in tennis and moving it over to pickleball with the hope of being ready Q4 of this year. So you know how that is with technology. It's kind of like building a house. So I'd expect it in Q1 of next year, but we're going to put as much pressure as we can. And what that will do is it will take the 8 pro courts that we have, and there'll be automatic line calling. So you won't even call lines anymore. It'll just automatically.
Holy crap. That's some news. No shit.
Yeah. So it's going to be good. I mean, I'm sure it'll take some fine tuning and take a little bit of time, but I was able to go out and see them demo their tennis software, and gosh, it's pretty dang close to perfect. And it was so nice.
That's impressive.
Right? So, yeah. Let us
know when we can. Interesting. Yeah, let us know when we can find more info on that, or when more info comes out, or if there's a press release, because we'd love to get in touch with one of them, talk about that on the pod too. But I mean, just the announcement is huge.
We'll get you with their CEO, and he can kind of talk you through it all. Great guy, and we've been doing a lot of due diligence about it. I mean, this is we've had 2 companies that we've been close with up to this point that we were actually going to invest in, and then we just couldn't quite get there because the technology had just seemed too far away. It was a little bit more wishful thinking than actual being able to execute. And I got super skeptical. And then, luckily this guy was running a college tennis event at SMU and asked me to come down. And I immediately called people from the office. I'm like, you guys got to get down here and see this. And so they're in the middle of working with Tennis Channel and the Pickleball TV group on what a full integration would look like. So we'll be pretty cool. So number 2, that's going to get fixed. And then number 3, gosh, it's a tough one. I know Jason Aspis has had a few conversations with groups that they perform PED testing for Olympic sports. And so the question is just like, how crazy do you want to go? And the crazier and more frequent you want to go, the more expensive it is. But we think there's a solution that is somewhere between the $500,000 to $1 million a year annual range that we think will be interesting for us. And when time comes, we'll likely adopt that and go with that solution. But really focused on 1 and 2 to start, and hopefully we keep progressing in the Olympic realm, and we can get real serious about number 3 down the road.
Yeah. So one last question on that. We had the announcement that WPF and IFP merged, and we had Seymour Rifkind on last week. And I said, this has got to be one of the first times that PPA and APP and UPA and basically everybody came out with a message of support for this. What do you see in the international world between WPF and GPF?
Yeah, no, I think when we look at international pickleball, there's really 2 things, kind of 2 separate things. One, you've got growing professional pickleball internationally, and that really doesn't matter who the international governing body is, right? You got the ITF for tennis, but they don't do much, as far as the ATP goes or the WTA. And so we're very focused on growing the PPA Tour internationally. Just this year, we're going to have 6 events in Asia. Had multiple events in Australia. Really excited about Europe and a few other areas as well. And so we're full steam ahead over there. We're investing dollars. It's important to us. We're signing players, and we see the future of professional pickleball growing internationally very quickly. But when we talk about the Olympics and just overall pickleball growth, that's something that's also super important to us. It might not mean as much to professional play of trying to grow a professional league, but the Olympics is something that could grow the sport, very quickly. And the international pickleball governing bodies, they're very much the stewards of trying to get pickleball just to grow. getting people to understand the game, make sure they're playing the right way, having standards, rules, regulations. And so we want to make sure that we're doing our part to support whoever that may be. We were definitely supporters of this little mini merger that went on between two of the international governing bodies. Now the big problem is GPF and WPF. There's two big ones now, and both claim to be the end all, see all. And I think there's a lot of organizations that haven't really aligned with either one. Us being one of them. I think the problem with GPF is they're just so USA Pickleball controlled. And I think we can take a look at kind of what USA Pickleball's done here. They've done some really good things, but they've definitely gotten in their way as well, where they can't really move as quickly and get things done and progress the game in a haste way. And so right now, I think Seymour probably has a slight edge there. And if someone said, Connor, you need to endorse one today, probably leaning that way. But I guess time will tell. We shall see. It's probably a fun story for you. So actually, I don't think people quite understand it, but when you start really thinking about what both those groups are trying to do, it's pretty interesting.
This is the international equivalent of tour wars unfolding in front of us, and nobody has any idea. All right, I said that was the last question. This is the real last question. How on earth, dude, are you going to fine Zane Ford $500 for that? You should be paying Zane Ford so much money. You should be paying Zane Ford thousands of dollars to get all of the publicity that he got. Like, he got PPA on TMZ for the first time, dude. That guy should be getting a bonus check, not a fine.
I know you guys share a name and he's your boy and you're a big advocate, but we definitely have to have rules. We have to have regulations. It's important for us to make sure that sure, players are playing hard, but we're definitely putting our best foot forward, and we're making sure that on the court we're doing the right things. There's a lot of people that he's examples to. I mean, you should see this junior PPA tour. Over 200 junior players at this last San Clemente event. We don't want those kids out there smashing the court, marking the court up. You know, I don't have a big enough insurance policy for all the damage that it might cause. So, love Zane. I think he's a great player. He's super passionate. And you know what? He's gonna continue to be him. He's gonna continue to put on a show and do great things for everybody. And you know, I hope he continues to have that fire, and he just needs to be a little bit more controlled. That's really it.
There's got to be like at least this much of a wink and a nod when Zane Ford does something like that. Come on, bro.
Yeah. I mean, we did have fun seeing it on TMZ. He did a pretty good job.
There we go.
I mean,
sweet Connor,
too good, right? I mean, he can't break those things. 6-0. Did you see that? He struggled. I think that's what he got on for, is the inability of being able to break it, right?
That was actually insane. No, like, look, smashing a paddle like this, understood. Once you go paddle over knee, dude, you got to be breaking that immediately.
Oh, all right, man. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for making time and covering all this and sharing your opinions.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. And thank you. You're on vacation with the family, made half an hour for us in the PicklePod, and let me ask the difficult questions. So, Connor, appreciate it. And I would say so and have said so previously. If I disagree, I think this is the way forward for the league. I am 90+% aligned on this with minor details. So, think it's very, very good for the league and pickleball in general.
Yeah, no, us too. Like we couldn't be more excited with where professional pickleball's headed. And, you know, once we get this done and we get this adopted, I think fans, they're going to see a different level and a different passion from players that I think everyone is just super thrilled to see. And we're excited to where it's going to lead. It's going to lead to big things, bigger crowds, big media rights deals, and just overall, it's going to be a net positive for the players in the business. So appreciate you covering it.
For sure. Sweet, Connor. Well, thank you, dude.
Man. Thanks, Zane.
All right. Well, welcome to the podcast. President of Global Pickleball Federation, Javier Regalado. Appreciate you coming on. I am trying to figure out what is going on with WPF, IPF, GPF, like all of that stuff. So I appreciate you coming on to help tell me about GPF a little bit.
Thank you, Zane, and thank you for the invitation. This is an honor to be here.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. So, you know, my first question and what sort of prompted this was I think early last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, we had the news that WPF and IPF merged. And from what I understand, that created the largest international governing body based on number of member countries. They voted to do that. I don't know the exact number. I'm sure you might. But it felt like big news in the grand scheme of pickleball. However, there is a big, contingent that is left out and in the other side of this conversation, which is GPF. So from your understanding, what do you feel like the WPF IFP merger means for pickleball, and where is GPF in this?
Oh, Zane, I think it's absolutely great that they managed to do this. We've been trying to do that for the past 5 years. The background on this is the IFP, the old IFP was founded about 2010, around somewhere in 2010 by USA Pickleball and some other federation. I believe India and Spain were the original founders. Then in 2018, the WPF was created. The argument that they had at the time was that the IFP was not doing anything for pickleball, and they wanted to do something. So years later, this is back in 2020, there was some efforts from Australia and Canada to try to unify pickleball under one. So that's when we started to work on that situation. We were part of the IFP at that moment, but then we realized that the bylaws within the IFP were incorrectly changed, and there was really no way to change a new board or elect a new board.
Javier,
So,
real quickly,
yes.
who is, when you say we, who is we?
Yes, good questions. We is federations, member federations from different countries. At the time, the members of the IFP were represented by major federations: USA Pickleball, Pickleball Canada, Australia, and some Europeans federation like Spain and France. And so at the time, those Mexico, I was representing Mexico at the time on the IFP. And so when I mean we, I mean the federations that were part of the IFP. When we saw that the bylaws were not correctly for a democratic election, then we made an ultimatum at the time to the board of directors of the IFP that the bylaws needed to be changed or we would step away from the organization. So the bylaws were not changed, and so 9 federations, again, including the large ones, USA Pickleball, Australia, Canada, Mexico, Philippines, we step away from the IFP. And at that moment, we started a process mediating and trying to work with both organizations, the WPF and the IFP. For 2 years, saying we work and try to make that merge happen, and it didn't happen. And basically, there were 2 reasons that didn't happen. Was that the bylaws had different interpretation, and WPF did not want to make important changes to their bylaws. And the bottom line and the most important one saying was that neither of these organizations wanted to give up their name, their brand, in favor of the other one. So at the time, the task force, these 9 federations created a task force. This task force of these 9 organizations then voted and decided to go to create the GPF. It was the last resource, saying we didn't want to do it, but after 2 years of spending a lot of time, a lot of resources, we met almost twice a month at the time for 2 years, trying to make things happen. So when we saw that we were wasting a lot of energy and that pickleball needed results and that a governance was needed in the international arena, that's when we decided to launch the GPF. Now, the GPF is composed, the founder members of the GPF are led by the major federations in the world: USA Pickleball, Pickleball Canada, Australia, Philippines, Mexico. Those were the founding members of the GPF and some other European federations. So we focused on starting giving results to our country members, starting working towards building an organization that could really represent the sport on the Olympic recognition process, and just bring some rule of law for the sport, which is really important and very much needed. So the GPF was created 2 years ago. We launched the GPF. And so now, after 2 years of the existence of the GPF, the other 2 organizations decided to merge. They find a way to work together and merge. So when I tell you that I'm really happy that they finally did it, is because for more than 4 years we were working towards that. What's the future look like? Well, we need to continue in conversations with them. Now that they're merging to one, it's going to be easier to talk with them, find
So,
ways to
real
negotiate.
quick, Javier. So just for my understanding, because there are so many different acronyms being thrown around and whatnot. So Mexico, Canada, USA, Philippines, those different countries that you mentioned, they were part of IPF before or
IFP, yes.
IFP
Yes,
before this.
correct,
They withdrew and created GPF, correct?
correct, correct.
Okay, so that's where, and then WPF and I'm
Not,
sorry, is it?
the IPF changed their name and now they're the IPF. It's very confusing, but yes, exactly.
Yeah, so IPF still existed, just without the countries that you mentioned that
Exactly.
withdrew. So
Exactly.
now WPF and IPF, minus the organizations that you had mentioned, merged.
Right.
Okay.
And now saying we have right now many of the countries that were divided in those two organizations started going into the GPF. And so right now we have 67. Well, today we actually incorporated two more. We have 69 countries being part of the GPF. A lot of them, they used to be on this organization. Now they're in the GPF. And we are looking to close the year just under 100 countries on the GPF.
Gotcha. Who'd you add today to get to 69?
It's the Gibraltar is one
Okay.
of small one, and the Cook Island, which are small countries. But anyway, they have good groups over there, and now they're part of the GPF family.
Got it. So this might be a dumb question, but
No
how
dumb
do
questions.
yeah, there are dumb questions. I ask people to submit their questions for the podcast on some of this. Trust me, there are dumb questions. And this might be one of them. How do you actually define a country, right? I mean, that can kind of be up for some form of interpretation, right?
No,
Like,
absolutely, absolutely, and that's one of the challenges that we have. Any sport federation has a challenge because there's several countries around the world that have multiple organizations within their countries that are promoting or want to be the representative of pickleball in their country. So that's one of the biggest challenge. We usually do the vetting when there are multiple organizations, and we do the vetting to try to understand which organization is well positioned within that country that has done more work in promoting and building their organization, and that's how we select them. Now, let me tell you that there's some very interesting cases like in Colombia. There were multiple organizations promoting
sure.
the sport. So the first, when they approached us, they were both battling and competing to become the GPF representative. So the first thing that I told them is, look, guys, the first stance is for you to try to solve your situation, try to work together. If that doesn't happen, then the second instance is that we are going to become a mediator for you to try to find a way to work together. If that doesn't happen, then at the end, we're going to become the judge and make a decision who is in better position. The good thing saying so far is that a lot of countries have managed to work together. Colombia was these two organizations merged together, and now they're within the GPF, but we were able to work on that. So that's quite a challenge that we have in the future.
To me, that seems like, look, it seems like a pretty big issue to have two international governing bodies, because then I think that it actually creates more instability even at the country by country level, right? Because if you take that example of Colombia, all right, well, whichever organization, if they can't figure it out, whomever ends up being recognized by GPF, well, isn't the other entity that doesn't get recognized, aren't they then going to just go over to the new WPF/IPF organization, right? So you could have, and I'm assuming there's some double counting going on here, right? Where GPF and the newly merged entity both have a Colombian representative from different organizations. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely, Zane. And that is why we don't like to promote this competition. What we like to promote is conversation, negotiation, and trying everybody to unify, just the way we have been trying on the international front. Again, going back to your first question, what do I think about that merge? I think it's great. I think it's outstanding that finally they were able to come together under one. And now the next step is for us to sit down with them. I met with them actually 2 days ago, a couple of days ago in Florida. during the World Pickleball Conference, and the three of us sat and talked about what's the next steps. So yes, that's a challenge everywhere
Wait,
in the world.
the three of you being
The
who
the WPF and the IPF and myself, correct?
Got it. Interesting. So now, like, I would love to know more about that conversation. Is this then going to be looking at merging the all three of these entities together?
Well, again, saying that's been our goal since the very beginning to unify the sport under one roof. And so, yeah, absolutely. We are going to continue having conversations and see how we stop this confusion that happens everywhere. Let me just say that last week also was a major milestone for the sport because now officially saying pickleball has started the Olympic recognition process. We were in Switzerland last week. We presented our application and we paid the fees and everything that was required to start the process. So for the first time in history, the official recognition process for pickleball has started. And part of that, we need to work on with every country member for them to build their organization. And all these areas of competing organizations is part of the challenge that we have to work so that we can unify the sport under one umbrella for Olympic
Got it.
recognition. Mhm.
Interesting. So I guess going back to the point that you made a little while ago, just a bit ago, you mentioned that the goal has always been to create one governing body. But I've got to ask, if that was the case, why withdraw from IPF when there was that imminent merger? Maybe not imminent at that point, but there was the goal of merging WPF and IPF. What
Well,
stemmed
yes.
that initial departure and creation of GPF if the goal has always been one international governing body?
That's a good question. And again, I think that you have to realize that this merge has taken place after 2 years that the GPF has already existed. And so my take on this is that they were able to make a merge because of the GPF. If we go back to that time, it wasn't imminent, as you say. It was really
Sure.
a thing we thought was never going to happen because they were very close to in their positions. And again, neither of them wanted to give up their brand in favor of the other one. And so there were major conflict about that. There were conflict about the way the bylaws were set and defined. And so it was very, for 2 years, we worked very hard and there was no possibility of that happening. So the third option that we took was to create the GPF. A risky one, was a painful one. But now after 2 years, we'll begin to see that it was the right decision to do it, Zane.
Okay. And then now it becomes easier to negotiate with one party. So, I
Exactly.
mean, like, look, I'm sure this will take a little bit of time, but how serious do you think merger talks now get between the new entity and GPF?
Oh, very serious. Again, just 2 days ago, I sat with them, and they were very open about continuing the conversations, and they're serious. We are serious. So the conversations are going to happen, Zane.
Okay. Do you consider it likely to happen within, say, 12 months or so?
Absolutely, absolutely, because the sport needs it, and this is not about us, about individuals. This is about the sport and about creating an institution that is very well needed for the sport of pickleball.
Got it. Interesting. Well, tell me a little bit more about these meetings that GPF had in Switzerland. And now, admittedly, first off, I think this entire situation really needs more Eric Tice, some actual journalism. I am not a journalist. I can ask, some somewhat difficult questions, but I'm not going in and fact checking really much of this stuff. I've got my opinion, and I like to talk to both sides of it. But I'm curious, basically, what did happen in Switzerland? How does that impact in the Olympics chances? And then I'll ask you the same question that I asked Riff last week. When do you think this does end up in the Olympics?
Yes. So we started. What happened last week was that we officially started the IOC recognition process. Now it is a process that it's long, it's challenging, and it will require a lot of work and resources to accomplish it. Even the Olympic Committee is going through very important changes. Maybe you're aware that last Monday, a new president of the IOC took office, and the first woman to take office. And there's going to be major changes in the Olympic Committee. So those changes that are going to happen will certainly affect new federation, new sports that want to join the IOC. Right now, what we have to concentrate is about building a strong organization, and at the same time make sure that at least 60 countries have also those guidelines that meet those guidelines for the IOC, so that we as a sport can be considered an Olympic sport. Now, this first stage, this first phase that we have to go through involves about building the organization. And once we build that organization, then we're not there yet. We just have to get to that point and then prove the Olympic Committee that we are an organization, a sport that is serious, that is mature enough to be part of the Olympic process. So it takes time and a lot of resources, saying. And a realistic and honest response to what you just asked is that if we work hard, we can be at the 2032 Brisbane Olympics. Before that, it's non-realistic, and whoever tells you that, they're lying, because they don't know the process. The process is very difficult to achieve, and it's going to take a lot of work to do it.
Gotcha. So 2032, I should change my nationality to Indian before then, right? Since I'm half Indian and I'm not making the U.S. team.
Well, and there are many other countries. I can invite you for the Mexican country, and you'll be there.
Hey, there we go. All right. Well, I've got some work to do on that one, but sweet. Well, Javier, thank you for coming on and enlightening me on some of this stuff. It's somewhere where I'm genuinely sort of in the dark. I feel like there's so much being thrown out about Olympics this, Olympics that, without, I would consider myself in the 0.00001% most informed pickleball people. However, I have no idea what goes on with this type of stuff. And so it's been really nice to have you and Riff on over the last 2 weeks. And I do genuinely hope that that you can make a merge between the two organizations, because I do think it really seeks down to the country by country level. Right. So is there anything else that you'd like to add about GPF, or anything else you think the audience should know?
Thank you, Zane. Well, yes, in 2 years since we started, we have made great progress. I think that what we achieved in 2 years as a federation, international federation, no one had done it before. A part of the complaints of the old IFP was nothing was being done. You haven't really seen anything in the past from any major federation. And right now, what we are doing is, in just 2 years, we have accomplished many, many things that no one has done before. We have programs in place to support and help our country members, coaching youth, promoting youth, just really helping and supporting our national federations to grow the sport of pickleball, which is very much required. And this Olympic recognition, or this Olympic process that we have started, nobody had done it before. So that's just a proof of how the GPF is focused on serving, saying our purpose is to serve the players. Serve players like you. I'm a player myself. I play a senior pro level, and I love the sport. And so we are building an institution that is going to serve the players, the communities, the countries.
Awesome. Well, very cool. Javier, thanks again. And we'll be in touch again. International is something that's very, very interesting to me. I appreciate you coming on. And we'll be in touch about some of the content stuff as well. I'll shoot you an email offline, and we'll do it. So thanks again.
Thank you, Zane. It's very nice meeting you and your staff and your team. Thank you for this opportunity, and hope to see you soon.
Yeah.